One of the many things that shook Hollywood and the entertainment industry at large to the core about the result of the election was the discovery that celebrity endorsements didn't matter. That was a surprise, because according to Hollywood logic, their side should have been all but guaranteed to win, as the lowly pleb, like good sheep, were expected to flock to vote for whomever the celebrity class told them to.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed.
Oh snap! Queen Latifah, everyone! Surely no one would go against the endorsement of Queen Latifah, because she never endorses anyone. Except they did, and they also went against the endorsements of the cringe Avengers, Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez, who never saw fit to warn anyone against Diddy, but who was compensated well enough to warn the electorate against the dangers of Orange Man Bad. That the endorsements of the celebrity class were so thoroughly ignored has forced a reckoning in the days after the election, with many, even in the media, suggesting that the time for celebrity endorsements is over. But not so fast. Entertainment media complex outlet Variety, who has some kind of stake in this, pushed back against this notion and argues why we not only need celebrity endorsements, but that the lowly pleb needs to hear from the celebrity class now more than ever. Let's dive in. In their November 10th piece titled, "Stop Blaming Celebrity Endorsements for Kamala Harris' Loss, we need to hear from artists now more than ever," Variety writes. Did you know that Bruce Springsteen and Beyoncé lost the election for Kamala Harris? Or at least bear a large part of the responsibility for her party's failure at the polls this year? It's true, you know, at least if you listen to some of the punditry coming from conservatives, and even from some Democratic operatives eager to find some celebs to push into the middle of their current circular fighting squad. The article then goes on to lament how publications it labels as right-wing all essentially argue that since celebrity endorsements didn't move the needle at all, their time is up. Well, Variety agrees, but disagrees, shooting back. There is good reason to believe the argument that people in the arts and entertainment speaking up does not move the needle a tremendous amount. But concurrent with that argument is the reasonable belief, again, reasonable belief, third time, belief that they can move it at least a tiny amount in registrations and motivation, if not 180-degree turns. So, massive emphasis on belief, because that is what Variety is latching on to here. A belief that these endorsements from proverbial dancing monkeys matter. Because Variety just so happens to be owned by the same proverbial guy who makes the monkeys dance, i.e. the agencies, who gets a large percentage of the fees these entertainers get for their endorsements. And make no mistake about it, these entertainers were paid handsomely for their endorsements. Of the $1 billion spent on the Harris campaign, which incredibly is still $20 million in the hole, an obscene amount was spent on celebrity endorsements, with Oprah alone getting $1 million, and she was peanuts compared to some of the bigger stars. That's a gravy train that Variety does not want to see stop, so therefore their belief is that celebrity endorsements and opinions are needed now more than ever. Let's see how they're going to defend that belief, because Lord knows there's no data to support it. They just really don't want to see that gravy train come to a halt. And so they begin their article with addressing their disappointment that anyone, let alone serious journalists, presumably because they should know better than trying to get in the way of this highly lucrative gravy train, could ever support this silly, data-supported notion that celebrity endorsements don't matter. Writing, the idea that entertainers and artists' involvement somehow leads to actual voter dissuasion is a fantasy. Bullshit that is happily perpetrated by the go woke, go broke crowd, and picked up by columnists who think that picking on limousine liberals never goes out of style. It really doesn't. Even Variety has to admit that. It's just disappointing to see this picked up by objective journalists and by some Democrats themselves, who imagine they have practical reasons to tell the entertainment world to shut up and sing. And now, brace for some A-level gaslighting. The biggest fallacy is that the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign was somehow lazily reliant on stars to get their message across. Pray tell, what message would that be? The Hill quoted an anonymous Democratic strategist as saying, "Somehow we think if Beyoncé is on stage, that will solve all our problems." Note to nameless strategist. Literally no one thought that. No, note to Variety. Actual Democratic strategists, named sources known to have designed the Harris campaign, are telling you that they thought that, so believe them. Case in point, let's for 1 second jump to the Washington Times story, $1 billion disaster. What went wrong for Harris campaign, which reads, "It's not clear that these endorsements had any impact, but strategists say they cast Miss Harris as an out-of-touch elitist, dismissive of voters' concerns about the economy. She rolled out Taylor Swift and all these people to talk about the decline of democracy, but she didn't address the #1 issue, which was inflation, and that's what did her in," said Brad Bannon, a Democratic Party strategist. She never drove home the issue of inflation. She talked about other things. In my personal opinion, as an observer from abroad, that was a deliberate choice, because the Harris campaign couldn't run on policy, as their policies is the direct cause of the inflation, immigration, foreign wars, and all the other horrors of the last 4 years. And it's kind of difficult to run on more of the same, so instead, the strategy became to focus on that this time, the establishment's puppet was a black Indian woman. So feel the joy and heed the warnings of the paid-off celebrities that if you were to vote for that other candidate, who actually will say what his policies are and how they will benefit you, then their democracy dies. But enough about my opinion. Let's return to Variety and see how they will justify the need for continued celebrity endorsements. And I'm gonna jump through all of the word salad, because there's a lot of it, and get straight to their main thesis. Whether celebrities budged any significant needles this election is hard to quantify, but it's wrong to discount it. You can at least raise the possibility the results would have been a little worse for Democrats without the majority of the arts world clearly standing on one side. Oh really? Pray tell, if you're a Democrat, how could the results be any worse? I mean, they lost the popular vote, they lost the presidency, they lost the Senate. They didn't have the House to begin with, and though some House races are still being counted, taking longer than even the most despotic of tin pot banana republics, the House still appears to be out of the Democrats' reach. So what's the argument here? That at least the Republicans didn't flip any deep blue states without voter ID? I don't think that was happening under any circumstance, so realistically, despite $1 billion spent, things could not have turned out any worse. Remember though, it is in the best interests of Variety's owners that the celebrity endorsement gravy train continues. But everyone else should tell the stars what Variety begged the world not to tell them. Shut up and sing. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.